Greetings. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Thanks once again for joining us. Today's talk focuses on, as usual, three areas. In particular, we're focused on the Tesla China Secret 3. So we've been doing a series in terms of the impact on what China has on Tesla's success going forward. Our latest iteration of this focuses on the fact that we think Elon is wrong for the first time, and we think he's wrong in the sense that instead of Tesla running out of cash by the end of the year, the fact that the China relationship is building will all of a sudden create an unlimited cash situation for Tesla. And that's the primary focus of our discussion, and we kind of build towards that in a crescendo. So I'm actually going to break because we're missing our mic. Okie doke. Well, thank you again for joining us. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. We have a pretty fun show today, and the focus, in this case, is still Elon Musk and Tesla. Let us bring our mic aboard. Terrific. So now we have better sound, and everyone involved will be happier as a result. So thank you for your indulgence. So we've had a series. So again, wanted to thank our subscribers as well as our Patreon supporters. Also wanted to note to all of you, I can see as you say hello. What I noticed from our show is that because I'm trying to engage the folks in terms of watching your comments, it affects my ability to sort of run through the show efficiently. So you'll notice that I'll definitely avoid saying hello, but I'll also avoid sort of reading your comments while I'm trying to pull the show out. And if you have any questions or comments, please, that you want responded to, please put them in after the 12-minute mark. I'd be happy to read and then respond around the 20-minute mark to those comments, but I'm going to avoid even bothering to look at them in the heart of the show because it affects the quality of our ability to move through the material that we want to cover. So today is, so we've started a series that I call Tesla China Top Secret. What the series is about is the fact that we're about to, I believe, end of September or end of August, early September, begin production coming out of the factory in Shanghai. Now, this has been an interesting journey that we've been on relative to how the new factory in China affects all of Tesla. So one of the big things that's popped up here is that China ran into a problem. The reason why China just spent $5 billion and is spending probably another $2 or $3 billion to build out the relationship with Tesla is what I want to call a bidding war. So basically what's happened is China made an effort to deliver a brilliant solution in terms of electric vehicles. 100 different companies funded 50 of them fairly heavily. A small set of them were allowed to go public. The one problem that they've run into a bunch of problems, but one of them is range anxiety. And this stems from the fact that the battery technology, that's a concentration of all the vehicles around the world, but especially in China, is kind of good for olden days solutions, but not the new days solutions. So let me kind of give you an example of what I mean, because I had an interaction with one of our viewers that illustrates the point. So I have a good friend, a former client, who's based in the San Francisco Bay Area, and he's very, very wealthy, but very environmentally conscious. So he purchased a Nissan Leaf and lives in a city called Palo Alto, California. His office is in San Francisco, California. The gap between the two places is 30 miles. Because of driving an all-electric Nissan Leaf, he was able to get carpool lane even when traffic is really bad, so he saves a lot of drive time between the two places. He explained that he had several problems that he ran into. Number one, when he gets in his EV and drives to San Francisco, the 100-mile range battery uses, especially if you listen to the radio, puts the heat on or something like that. So maybe he uses, 50, 60 miles of that range. Once he gets his car into the building, it takes about 8 hours for that vehicle to actually charge itself up. So now he runs into the problem of, what if you have meetings you have to do during the day? I suppose you could do Uber, etc. But he has the ultimate form of range anxiety, because he has to be mindful of how long it's going to take for the car to charge after he got to work. And so it just creates all of these challenges relative to what that person has to do. So if you look at the Chinese vehicles that have been manufactured, one of the key things you'll notice is that most of those vehicles are concentrated in the 100-150 mile range zone. And if you deduce the fact that most EVs operate best in the 80-20 band, meaning no lower than 20%, no more than 80% on a regular basis charging, this further reduces the range that the vehicle can travel if you want to take care of your batteries. So what I'm driving at in this dialogue is the fact that if you say you have 1 to 150, maybe even 200 miles of range, your real range is somewhere in that 120-ish mile range, but people are still paying $80,000 for that vehicle. So for novice owners, they'll dive in thinking everything's fine range-wise, particularly if they don't have a long way to go for work. And then they find out that, oh, well, wait a second, I can use my range to get to work, but now it'll take all day for the car to charge up. So I'm running you through this series of issues because if you look at China, because most of the vehicles that they produced fit that profile of relatively short range, 100, 150 miles, you have, even if it's not long distances, you have huge traffic issues, particularly in places like Shanghai, that affect the fact that these vehicles are staying on the road a lot longer. So huge range anxiety is what I'm getting at. So I bring all of this up so we can move along in our China discussion, because it sets up why it is that China is willing to put out, at this point, they're only in about $8 billion into Tesla. We believe that they're going to go another $20, $30 billion into Tesla in the form of other factories to get what their goal is. And what their goal is that over the next year, they really want 1 million vehicles next year from Tesla, and they want that number to double every year for the next 5 years. And, to a crescendo where, the market in China is 7 million vehicles in 2025, and Tesla probably controls between 30% and half of those numbers. But if the copying process doesn't work well, if the copying process doesn't work well of Tesla's technology, it wouldn't be a shock if Tesla took 70, 80% of that EV market, consistent with, sort of other things that they're doing. So I bring all this up to you because what's fascinating to us is the fact that there's a bidding war brewing for battery packs. And how does this work? Well, think about it. Right now, Tesla's producing 7,000 vehicles a week. The constraint on that is the number of battery packs and batteries coming out of the Gigafactory. So the question mark that comes up is, if China production is going to start off at 3,000 vehicles a week, times 4 equals 12,000 vehicles a month, those battery packs have to be sort of removed from the packs that might be used by other sort of customers, be it the United States or Europe. And so will there be an increased production? Yes. I think the battery production has been a focus of everyone to grow the number of units that are being produced there. So where are we in that process? Well, you could argue that there'll be 10 or 11,000 battery packs a week available starting by the fall, and perhaps double that number by this time next year. The challenge, though, is China is building a 500,000 to a million unit per year facility in Shanghai for Tesla. So basically, all the batteries Tesla makes now, plus another 3,000 to 5,000 packs, is what China would like to have for its domestic consumption for the next 4 years, plus probably double that as we close out that. So the challenge then becomes, how do you secure the battery packs you need? So one of the fun parts of our show is that everyone is always telling me that Elon Musk is a genius, and he is, and then he's sort of omniscient. I do have an element of where Elon Musk is completely wrong. And the reason I say he's completely wrong is there's a concept called backlog in business. So what that means is that there's a place called China, and they've told Tesla that over the next 5 years, they want X number of EVs, and Tesla gets half that business. And so let's call that number 20 million cars. And so what this is the China backlog for Tesla's products. So what's fascinating to us, me, is the fact that, as we've talked about in other shows in this series, we could shut down production to the rest of the world and only deal with China, and there's a shortage of batteries. So the question that comes up is, how is the battery allocation going to occur? And we're hearing now that 3,000 battery packs in cars is what Tesla is going to start with, and then we'll see how it grows to fit the production capacity of the new plant that's been built, along with the other plants that are about to get built as well. So this is a long-winded statement to say we're now in what I call bidding war zone for Tesla's battery pack / cars. And China has made a move with, call it $10 billion, to say, hey, we want a certain block of those packs and we don't care. So why is this interesting, significant? Well, if you think about it, China is a master planned. They have huge amounts of capital to invest in initiatives that they think are important. And in this case, they're focusing on Tesla. One of the big discussions that's been going on is, does Tesla get blown out by the VWs and Mercedes and all the big players in the world as they come to market with cars? And this brings up some interesting stuff here. Namely, there's a company called Rivian, for example, and Rivian is using LG batteries to go after Tesla in a 2170 format. The issue, though, is that there are like 20 manufacturers all relying on LG for their battery solutions, most of which are pouches. And in theory, they'll be moving, some like Rivian will ask LG to produce 2170s, but there's scale production that needs to be done, and it's not that easy to manufacture batteries at scale. So all of this said, we're in a very interesting period where the Tesla backlog, driven by demand from its vehicles around the globe, not to mention even new products coming out next year, means that we're in a bidding war situation to control a certain number of battery packs coming from the Gigafactory. Even while they're increasing, we're in a huge shortage mode. And then, the other thing that's fascinating to me is that China hasn't revealed any of the chaos that they've been experiencing. But when all of your cars are concentrated on a 100-mile range, and you have a big country like China does, you just end up in crazy range anxiety situations. I was fascinated. I met a Nissan Leaf owner who explained that he had a certain radius that he knew he would drive within in order to make sure he didn't run out of battery. And the range anxiety focus was incredible. So I can really see that as soon as you have a mid-price Tesla in a place like China, where there's a middle-class consumer market of 300 to 400 million people, as we have in the United States, you all of a sudden have the shutting down the website of Tesla, as we've discussed previously. So is the demand there? Well, the fact that the website was shut down, I thought that was nice. I wasn't sort of that impressed. But think about this. To date, Tesla's had its arm tied behind its back in that with the tariffs and other issues, Tesla's facing a 40% higher price for their vehicles in China now, whereas once they have their plant built out, we won't see any of those issues that are lurking. So all this said, what I want to point out in this show is that there's an interesting phenomenon, which is if the marketplace sees your backlog and that backlog is large and confirmed, there's no limit of cash. So yes, Tesla can go out and get further financing if they need to, because all they have to say is, look, we have this backlog. Our goal is to use the cash that you guys give us to build out battery and other capabilities to meet the backlog that we have. And there's no problem with cash from the general marketplace. But if we further have this backlog be focused on, if this backlog is focused on a place like China, where they're putting $50 billion into Africa each year, and in the case of China, where part of their $50 billion per year is to make sure they have access to raw materials that could go into these batteries for Tesla. China is a very interesting partner, and their ability to outbid others to step to the front of the line of the battery packs that they need is in line. So the other thing that we've covered previously, but not really in the show, is just the fact that when you look at a battery pack, it's easy to say, oh, let's just replicate the 2170 when we're ready to go. There is the issue of the thermal management system as well, both of which work in harmony to provide a smooth operation, as we've seen with Tesla for a long time. So all of this said, we believe that really what's going on is that as large numbers of competitors enter the space, one of the challenges out there is there's literally a shortage still of batteries. And given where demand is going as the price point of the vehicles drop for a decent length range, you're good to go. Tesla obviously has the advantage of supercharging. Number one, the fact that the cars can be supercharged and don't have to wait 8 hours to charge up reduces range anxiety partially. And then obviously they have, in general, longer range packs, usually never below 200 miles in range. So all of this said, to watch a powerful nation like China capitulate to Tesla in the numerous ways we've covered that they have, makes it very clear that they did a very thorough analysis of where they are and where things are going, and that they would not get to their goals without a huge shift in how they do things to allow Tesla to enter their marketplace successfully. So I'm pleased to hear where we're going. I will note to you that, again, I believe that Elon Musk's analysis of Tesla running out of money is ain't going to happen. And the reason is because everyone is looking at vehicles on the street and what their backlog looks like. And that double combination results in everyone getting excited because they know that new vehicles produced will be sold into the backlog that I just described. So, we've already talked about the fly in the ointment, which is, can China replicate everything Tesla is doing as a way to sort of destroy the competitive advantages that Tesla has? And because the battery packs are coming out of primarily China and the Gigafactory, the answer is eventually it may not be the Chinese, it probably will be the Koreans that replicate Tesla's battery capacity. But when you look at the charging network and the head start that Tesla has, and the fact that there's a huge backlog of demand for what they do, I think all the signs point to, just a monster next couple of years for Tesla, even if Elon won't realize what the deal is until the China backlog in the form of unlimited cars sold at those lower prices really emphasizes the point to him and the general marketplace of where we're at. So the only bad news I see out of this is new products are going to suffer, because if you have all those battery packs being sucked up by the Chinese market in the Model Y and the Model 3, you end up with when does the truck get scale batteries? When does the Roadster get scale batteries? Hopefully, there's some minimal diversion that starts to occur there to address the needs of those vehicles. But we also have increasing production at the Gigafactory, which should be double what we've been seeing, by the end of 2020, early 2021. which will help, but it still runs into to major issues. So I've been sort of eyeing what you guys are up to. Hi, Jerry, Gareth, my friends from Australia. Greetings. Thanks for joining us. We're at a point in the show where we typically answer questions. Another person, Vladimir from Serbia. Greetings. Hey, thanks for the comment, Vladimir. I have a Model 3 on order, but help on Patreon could feed the cash to us. That would help us to make the transition into the Model 3. So I appreciate your recommendation, and that is the ambition for us to get the cash together to get there. And I would love to get that done in the next 4 to 6 months, if possible. But, it is definitely the ambition to get that done. The final thing that we wanted to just review in general right now is that, as you know, Tesla stock has taken it in the, is down 30% for the year, et cetera. And again, I believe that we end up in a really nice situation where, as the marketplace acknowledges some of the things I'm talking about, particularly as the China plant opens, I expect for there to be a strong push on the stock associated with understanding how much real demand there is out there and what the backlog is like, and the fact that folks are having a hard time purchasing or getting a hold of the vehicle given the global demand that's up as we get rid of the tariff issues in China. Again, wanted to thank all of you for signing up. Just a reminder, I'm about to do my 20 leg lifts per leg with a 5-pound weight. Also, don't go to bed within 2 hours of eating, preferably 4 hours to let the food digest. We haven't added much to our health consciousness. Many of the doctors that I've been getting my information from for our health segment are also doing something called fasting of different types. So there's something called the 5-2 diet, etc., recommended for you guys to think about. Any rate, we're looking forward to responding to your comments. The Maxwell impact is definitely going to be felt over time, and we'd like to sort of see what that is for sure, so we can say definitively what it is. But a lot of smart people there. The dry battery technology looks pretty good. So look forward to any and all comments at the end of the show. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Tschüss, German, au revoir, French, lehitraot, Hebrew, Hoda Hafez, Farsi, Ni Hao Ma, Chinese. Great question about the Tesla bankruptcy. I really felt like, there's a bunch of analysts that have concluded that Tesla is going bankrupt. And, the issue with bankruptcy or anything is, will people lend you money? And really the thesis of our China Top Secret series is that Tesla now has the blank check option coming from China. So because of how much money and their ability to outbid other countries for Tesla's cars and battery packs, Tesla could simply walk in and say, we want $20 billion. And the Chinese will say, when should we write the check and where do we send it to? So if that kind of money wasn't available on a one phone call basis, I'd still be worried about bankruptcy. But because of that, I don't think there's any worry whatsoever. In fact, I think Tesla is in a comical position, because can you imagine if Tesla puts a plant in China and, there's a bunch of things I've been reading about, but basically China will provide through its companies, very long-term financing at low rates. And so Elon could just say, hey, I need a couple of billion. And the time from when he makes that phone call to when that occurs, is a few hours. And so because of this, I just think that it's appropriate to say Tesla could go bankrupt. But the problem is that when you have the backlog that they have, that's a dream backlog. And that's what investors are hankering to be a part of, is an organization that has a backlog of products that can't easily be replicated, and a marketplace that's hungry for that product. So hence, I think they can earn their way out of their bad situation, but I just think there's unlimited capital available from domestic U.S. and Europe sources, potential pension funds. But I just think that the no terms, no big deal China checkbook is an awesome help to have. At any rate, thanks for the question, Michael. Look forward to all of your comments on this. Hope you guys have a great Saturday, and we'll look forward to our next visit. Have a great day, and bye for now.